Today, boys, we've got hot off the presses Nintendo's latest financial reports for the quarter ending December 31st, 2019. It's no surprise that the Switch continues to just destroy expectations, but just how well did the system and its games do closing out 2019 and the holiday season? Let's start with the most important number, console sales. For the last quarter report, the one ending September 30th, the Switch was looking at about 41.5 million sales total, and was hoping for a really strong holiday season to get them over the 50 million mark. And wouldn't you know it, they crushed that mark. And of this most recent quarter, the Switch now sits at just under 52.5 million units sold, which now puts it ahead of Super Nintendo, which sold about 49 million systems worldwide. And the NES is going to be their next target, which sold 61 million systems. And outside of Nintendo's own camp, this means the Nintendo Switch has almost surely outsold the Xbox One. Now, Microsoft has long given up on releasing their official numbers, no surprise, but most estimates have them hitting the $45-46 million mark at the end of this past year. So yeah, it's safe to say Nintendo has defeated the Xbox One. And this is again in less than 3 years. The journey to this number was aided by the launch of the Nintendo Switch Lite, which sold 5 million systems up to this point. Not bad for a system that released in September. Also, don't forget the big China launch. That certainly didn't hurt things. But as always, the big factor was software. People want to buy your system to play the games. Crazy, right? The previous report, again for the end of September, had the Switch selling about 246 million pieces of software to date, and a mere 3 months later, that number has shot up to over 310 million. An extremely substantial boost. One that was led by, you guessed it, Pokemon Sword and Shield. I don't think anyone expected these games not to sell, but their performance is insanely impressive nonetheless. Combined, Sword and Shield have sold over 16 million units, making them already one of the fastest selling Pokemon games of all time. I think there's only a few that they've yet to surpass already, with only being out a couple months, making them together the 5th best-selling game on the Switch to date, with the Let's Go games in 6th place, selling 11.7 million units, also because Pokemon. Yeah, 16 million already, and fanboys will tell you, these games, they don't make enough money. How do they keep the lights on at Game Freak with a mere, 27 million copies sold between 2 games? I can't wait to see which features they strip out and put behind paywalls to do even better with the next games. But again, Pokemon making a huge splash will come as a shock to no one, so let me gush about one of the actual surprises here, a game that I feel definitely earned its place, as we had another late in the year release crack the top 10. Luigi's Mansion 3, as of right now, is the 10th best-selling Nintendo Switch game to date, with 5.3 million copies sold. I could cry. I really could. This was a game I said was a dark horse Game of the Year candidate, one that I expected to be good, just didn't expect it to be as amazing as it turned out, and I did worry that it was going to kind of go unnoticed, but I guess not. Sales-wise, it's much of the same story for me as when I reviewed it. I expected it to sell pretty well, but not this well. 2.53 million units, I would have thought was fantastic for this. Some other games that I'm really happy to see did well. Super Mario Maker is still pretty close to Luigi's Mansion with just over 5 million units sold there. Fire Emblem 3 Houses has done 2.5 million. Ring Fit Adventure, over 2 million. I wonder if that had a spike with people getting ready for their New Year's weight loss resolutions that they've probably already given up on. Astral Chain cracked 1 million. Awesome to see with a new IP, well deserved. That game is amazing. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, also up there, over 1 million. In terms of mobile sales, of course, many of you probably already heard that Nintendo announced before this report that their mobile games recently just hit $1 billion in total revenue. And note, this outrageous number does not include Pokemon Go. It would be way higher if Pokemon Go was in here. This is just for their games that they own outright. But if you look at the graph of where those sales come from, my point from my video on Mario Kart Tour, I believe it was, I feel has kind of been proven, where I said, you gotta keep in mind, not all the mobile games make insane money because the market is so saturated. you'll notice a large majority of those sales comes just from Fire Emblem Heroes. It completely dwarfs everything else. I'm sure they're all profitable because most of them feel like games that were made in a month, but still, with so many mobile games out there, free-to-play mobile games out there, it's hard to have everything catch fire. Isn't that right, Dr. Mario? Yeah, if you want the winning strategy for mobile games, free-to-play games, gacha games, you can never go wrong with waifus. Let your players buy waifus. Doesn't even matter what you do in terms of a game after that, I think. Just sell waifus, profit. So yeah, across the board, very impressive quarter to close out 2019. The only surprise for me really was the Luigi's Mansion 3 sales. Again, I did not expect it to do that well. Just so happy about that. But that leads us into how will Nintendo continue that success, perhaps even grow it this year. They've got some stuff announced. For now, I think Animal Crossing is probably the only game that we know about for sure that will move serious software as well as hardware, but that's like a mere 2 months away. We've been anxiously awaiting that next Nintendo Direct, and I think that's where we'll get a better sense of what the rest of the year is going to look like. Hopefully something big is planned for the end of the year, you have to assume, right? Something yet to be announced, maybe like a Mario or something. I think we can probably also expect something around summertime, maybe not one of the big system seller type games, but, you know, we got Fire Emblem last summer. Granted, that was a delay, as well as Mario Maker 2, that was a summer release, so I have a feeling they'd have something else for this summer. The big question mark, though, for the Switch as we look towards this year, 2020, is the potential new Nintendo Switch model, a Switch Pro, or whatever they're going to call it. These numbers make me more confident in my belief that they don't need one. Like, the current Switch is tearing shit up right now, the Lite is doing well. Don't know if they need a third SKU out quite yet. And the Switch Lite is still being outsold by the base Switch, despite it being the new, even cheaper model. I think just getting a price drop on the base Switch later in the year would help them big time, as well as, of course, new software, obviously. If that all ends up being the case, there's no reason for me to believe that it wouldn't continue to be successful throughout 2020. Plus, if you're doing the big hardware upgrade, you're going to be throwing something that's more expensive, surely, out there against the new PlayStation 5, as well as the Xbox Series X in that this holiday. Like I've said, I'd hold off and just continue pushing these cheaper options for people, but that's just my opinion. Certainly does not mean a more powerful Switch isn't coming this year. If they do it, I definitely think they shouldn't do exclusive games with it, at least not yet. With how rapidly this player base again is growing, we're now, like I said, 52 million units. I for sure wouldn't start dividing the player base at this point. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on these latest Nintendo financial reports in the comments. Are things about what you expected, better, or perhaps even worse? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of Nintendo's latest earnings release. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter at Johnny Zakari, and join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends. Link to both in the description below, and as always, thanks for watching.